Welcome to SADTU Online Television. I'm your host, Nomusa Cembi. The South African Democratic Teachers Union will be taking part in the Global Action Week for Education. This year's theme is Investing in a Just World, Decolonizing Education, Financing Now. In the studio, we have our General Secretary, Comrade Mokoena Maluleka, to explain to us more about this campaign, its aims and objectives. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Nomusa, for the welcoming and for inviting me to really take part in really explaining and contextualizing this Global Action Week by the Global Campaign for Education. Basically, as we mark our 20th anniversary as a Global Action Week, it is important for us to really take a step back. What achievements have we made? We have been campaigning for financing of education. We've been campaigning very well for making sure that each and every child deserves the right to education, in particular the girl child throughout the world where they have been excluded.
And then coming to the right to education, which is a very important right, it's a fundamental right. In fact, education is a fundamental right and a public good. Unfortunately, in Africa, across our continent, this right is yet to be fulfilled. The main bottlenecks are, one, there is not enough funding for education. So investment in education is very limited. And then there are not enough qualified teachers in many African countries. Even where they are there, the class sizes remain very huge and making it difficult for teachers to attend to the needs of individual students. And then coupled with that is the issue of attracting teachers into the profession and keeping them there. The main challenge is that young people today do not really, in the majority of our countries, aspire to be teachers. The main problem being that the status of the profession is very low. The salaries are quite often very low compared with other professions which require similar or equivalent qualifications.
The organization has been doing, SADTU has been part of that. And as an organization in South Africa, we believe that our role during this particular campaign from the 29th of May would be to petition our parliamentarians, is to petition our legislatures in terms of our MPLs, for them really to begin to take education very seriously, because we need to restore confidence in public education. Cannot allow infrastructure to be dilapidated, because that really is the one that is destroying confidence of the public from taking their learners or their children to public schools. We need to ensure that when we petition them, we ask them to really increase the budget. Even if South Africa is now complying with the international norm, South Africa has got backlogs. And because it has got backlog, it has got to increase the budget in order to address these particular backlogs in terms of infrastructure, in terms of lack of administrative staff, in particular in Limpopo, in the Eastern Cape, and so forth. So that is what we'll be doing. But we're also wanting to engage the citizens of our country to participate through our social media platform, to really lobby government, lobby the MPLs and the MPLs and the MPs to make sure that they review the formula.
We are really working hard to bring children into school, but still we have challenges with providing quality education.
I think that the thing about education rights, so right now we are, about 7 years away from 2030, which is when the Sustainable Development Goals are supposed to have been achieved, and we are very much off track.
The equitable formula that basically is creating inequality. And equitable, basically, you would have thought that it is going to create that particular equity and social justice for our children. But unfortunately, you have got the Eastern Cape province, which is still having poor infrastructure. You have Limpopo. They cannot employ in vacant post because the budget is not enough for them to do that, despite the fact that the budget is 6% of the GDP, but it's not enough. We have just seen in KZN now that when teachers are not well or teachers are on maternity leave, it is very difficult for the department to pay for the substitute. There's no way that you can have a learner in the classroom without a teacher. That's unconstitutional. And therefore, this particular campaign is about that. It's about financing. It's about government really making sure that they come to the party and review their budget to see education as an enabler, to see education as a public good.
Unless we as unions, we as educators, we as activists, civil society organizations, parents, student groups come together and put pressure on governments, one, to invest more in education, and teachers to invest in infrastructure, for example. That's why Education International on the 24th of January this year launched an important campaign, the Go Public Fund Education campaign. It's an education financing campaign. And in the light of that campaign, we've already organized very, very important events.
But there's another problem that we need to address as a country. Whilst we are struggling with the infrastructure, we are struggling with lack of resources in our schools, we cannot, therefore, allow our government to use the money to fund privatization of education. If you want private, you must be able to pay for your education in a private school, rather than to be having private institution being subsidized by the public funds. The public coffers must be for public schools. And therefore, that is where we stand, that we are saying go public, fund public education, restore confidence, make sure that the infrastructure and the environment is conducive for learning. And that's what the campaign is all about, is to making sure that we remind our government that they are not only there as office bearers, but they are also part of the solution we see.
Our detractors would say South Africa is getting 6% of the budget is used for education, and yet we do not see our education really giving us the results that they want to see, perhaps as business or as that meet the needs of a capitalist country, for instance. What do you say to that?
I want to say very clear is that we have got to make sure that that which is 6% of the GDP is not going directly to where we're supposed to be making an impact. It's not going to the teacher development. Is there a budget for teacher development? No. South Africa relies on donor funding for teacher development, and teacher development is very critical for the teachers to be abreast with the changes in the world in terms of methodologies and techniques of teaching. They need to be able to be empowered. And therefore, it is a right of each and every teacher to attend developmental clinics. That's your right as a teacher, to be trained, to be sent back to making sure that you are able to change your techniques, your methodologies, and how you approach the teaching situation. So that money is not going there. It's going to bureaucracy. South Africa has bureaucratized too much. Let me just give you an example. We have 10 ministers of education. South Africa has got just about 60 million people with 10 ministers of education. Do we really need that? Each and every minister who is a MEC in a province has got a political administration. How much is it taking from us? That's where the money is going. Then you have a bureaucracy that I have never seen anywhere in South Africa, that you would have a small province like the Northern Cape that has got less than 8,000 teachers, basically, or 6,000 teachers, but has got a head of department, has got DDGs, has got chief directors, has got directors. That particular department used to perform with a DDG, and it was number one in terms of the results. But having pumped this bureaucracy in the department, we have seen the department now being almost lagging in number 6 or number 7 in terms of the results and so forth. What has bureaucracy brought us? It's not brought us anything, because that is the money that must go where? To the teachers. The money that must go to our learners is the money that must go to our early childhood development. It must go to our food handlers. This is the money that must go there so that we're able to improve the quality of education. These are the areas that we need to be attending. And this week that we are going to be petitioning them, these are the things we have got to tell them. You have to stop bureaucratization. It doesn't work anywhere. You've got to take the money where the teachers are interfacing with the learners and the parents.
Now, looking at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal for quality education, the deadline is 2030. We know that on current trends, that will not be achieved. So it's important that governments accelerate progress towards achieving that goal. And then on the African continent, the African Union has the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, CESA, Continental Education Strategy for Africa. That strategy is supposed to be realized by 2025. So we're almost there, but it's clear that there are enormous challenges, so it will not be achieved. The objectives of CESA, the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, will not be achieved.
This is SADTU Online TV, coming live from Matthew Koniwe House. This is Nomusa Cembi, your host. Amandla.
Sifuna makabanega mandela.